farmers are on the land above. The miners want what is underneath the land. So how to find the synergy, how to see everybody benefiting is something that the specific countries should really find ways of managing that. Because you need the minerals, certainly because the economy needs it. Because if you produce enough gold, you have enough gemstones, and you sell them, yeah, it brings wealth to the country, it brings growth to the country. But you also need agriculture to produce the food. So that is where both are needed. So how do you organize it in such a way that you get both? That is the challenge which the authorities in the specific country have got to sit down and see how to organize. Both are needed. Yes. So that's what I can say. There is no one size fits all answer to that, because you can't say no, because you are displacing the smallholder farmers, then no mining. So you also need these minerals to come out. But this is the other thing that was discussed. You say you talk about potential, but talk about potential. But if you don't utilize this potential, it will remain. Africa is very rich. Africa is very rich. So we have a lot of minerals. But if they remain on the ground and underground, and they don't translate into wealth for the people around there, it is what I think Professor De Soto was calling dead capital. It's just dead capital. It contributes nothing to the development. You seem to talk about. Yes, oh, good potential, good potential. So you need to take out the gold. You need to take out the minerals so that they can translate into wealth creation for the people involved and for the country. But at the same time, you need the farmers to thrive, so that they don't become impoverished. So they produce the food which everybody else needs to consume. So I think that's what I'll say. But it is more about the specific situations in the specific country, to see how the laws governing mining are and how the laws are governing agriculture are, and see where you can build the synergies, or where you can come up with a middle line, so that there is a win-win situation for both those interested in mining and those interested in farming. The Burkina Faso example, how do we deal with extremism? It was not the subject of discussion here, but in one of the previous discussions, we discussed security on the continent, and all these issues have been discussed. Certainly, each part of the continent has specific problems. Now we have problems in Sudan. It's two generals fighting, and they're just destroying the country, and people are suffering. You know, I mean, there have been efforts to intervene, talk to them. Yeah, you have problems in South Sudan, again, people fighting. You have problems in the Congo. Yes. So, fortunately, in each of these situations, the African Union has been trying to intervene. ECOWAS has been trying with regards to West Africa. At times there are no easy answers. What is of interest is that the efforts have been made. What I can simply say is to appeal to ECOWAS to continue to be seized with the situation, also the African Union. But when it comes to security situations of that magnitude, the United Nations also, the United Nations was created for these kinds of situations. They have also continued to remain seized and see how to deal with those problems.
And we know that it is effective. We've seen it in East Africa, we've seen it in West Africa, in ECOWAS. And so at a continental level, the free movement of persons is critical to ensure that we make a contribution to intra-Africa trade. Business persons who will be moving around the continent to trade, to do business. This is what that protocol is intended to facilitate. Of course, there are security issues that have to be taken into consideration. There are immigration issues. All of these things have to be taken into consideration. But it is a matter that the heads of states are seized with, and we are working with the Commission, the Department on Humanitarian and Social Affairs of the African Union Commission to ensure that this matter remains on the agenda of the Assembly of Heads of States and Government. On the movement of goods, there are three interventions that the AfCFTA makes by law. The protocol on trade facilitation, the annex on trade facilitation, annex on customs systems harmonization, as well as the annex on trade facilitation. These are the three instruments that are intended to ensure predictable certainty in the movement of goods across borders. Of course, the challenge is when you are at the border as a trader, at the border, that's where the AfCFTA has to be relevant, not in a conference room amongst negotiators, but at the border. That is why we're working very closely with customs, heads of customs authorities of Africa. We have hosted them here in Accra 4 times last year, if not 3 times, to say to customs authorities in Africa, as we implement this agreement, there are areas that are exclusively in the domain of customs authorities, and that is the border procedures. So we need them to be fully engaged, to make a contribution to implementation of the AfCFTA, and to work with us. And fortunately, all of them are very positively disposed to work and to implement the agreement. Of course, it's going to take time, because it means that each country, each customs authorities must train their customs officers about the AfCFTA, the reduced tariffs, the harmonized procedures. All of those things that are in the agreement will take time. There is a designated focal point for each Ministry of Trade, where there are incidents where a country that has ratified the agreement continues. The customs systems are not applied. That's why the focal point is there, so that the Ministry of of Trade can be made aware that at border X, the AfCFTA procedures are not being followed, or indeed ourselves as a secretariat to say at border X, the AfCFTA procedures are not being followed. And we will make the necessary intervention, not from an accusatory point of view, but from a point of view to facilitate trade. There are success stories on the movement of goods in Africa. I visited the port of Mombasa a year and a half ago. I was told that 12, 13 years ago, for goods to move from port of Mombasa to Kampala, 1,400 to 1,500 kilometers, it used to take 15 days, 28 steps. Now it takes 3 days.
28 roadblocks.
That's right, yes. And all of the...
Because when you talk about steps, they don't understand.
all of the along the way.
28 checkpoints.
28 checkpoints. contacts along the way, some of them official, some of them unofficial. These were, and now the East African community has reduced that to one checkpoint, 3 days transit of the goods. So it is possible to achieve these objectives with the political will and the political action. We know it can be done because other parts of the continent have done it. So we have to work together with the customs authorities and ministries of trade in individual countries to implement the agreement. We are looking at the models that have worked, and the African community model has worked. The evidence is there. So we need to take that model and introduce it in other corridors across the 5 regions of the African continent.